project using GIS and remote sensing in agriculture. Okay, so first we'll talk about a GIS. Okay, so like if you are a GIS, if you go to buy anything, or suppose, or you want to go for the new agriculture setup, okay, new field site. So when you think about that, even if you go to buy your house also, so what thing comes to your mind? One is the where sites will be located. Okay, where sites will be located. Okay. Then second will come how far is from your town, railway station, your existing house, or airport, all those things. Okay. Then third will come what road should I take to reach these sites, shortest or optimal routes. So these things are basically, it comes in your mind whenever you take plan for then buy house, or you are for agriculture field, or even for the factory or something. Okay, so what happened? It means what you are basically doing, you are involving geographical parameter in decision making, such as location, where it should be located, distance, how it is from my house, my railway station, airport, then direction, which is the direction it is there, then connected, how it is connected, where it is connected with road or railways or airport. Then you also see the adjacency, what is in adjacent area. Like suppose you are going to field agriculture, definitely you want some water body there or not, or some river is there, canal is there. Similarly, so this kind of thing, what you are basically doing, you are involving geographical parameter in your decision making. So this is location, distance, direction, connectivity, adjacent, etc. Okay, so now, so that is basically, yeah, geographical information we are. So this is the geographical information we are involving in your decision making and everything. Now, similarly, like if you want to know the distribution of different crop in your state, like suppose you want to know, that is one idea. You are in the geographical information. Then suppose you want to know distribution of different crop in your area, how it will. If you see the tabular data, how, which one do you prefer? Which tabular data? Like you have got a tabular data, you can say, okay, this is the distribution district wise in my state. Or you will prefer the geographical data. You can see the difference in the geographical. Immediately you can find it. Okay, this area is the beet dominated area. This area is the maize. This is a cotton, and these are the area which has been rice grown area. So it is basically what you are preparing. You are preparing for the map data. So that is the beauty of GIS. Okay, so GIS gives the, in one picture itself you can see the state of your entire state. So that is your. Okay. So now if we break the geographic information of GIS definition wise, what geographic implies location of features in terms of geographic coordinates, latitude, longitude. Information implies attribute or characteristic of that particular feature. Okay, so you have a location, you have information there, but you need to know some system which link these two. Okay, so this is called the system to link geographic information for display, query, analysis, modeling. Okay, if you see here, this is the geographic 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the information related to this, like this. If you see this taluk population is this, okay, and man woman ratio is this. So this way, now we are this system you are linking. Okay, so that is basically, if you see the geographical information system. So if you go for the definition wise, bookish definition, what it says, organized collection of computer hardware, software, geographic data, and personal. This is very important. Personal designed to efficiently capture the data, store that particular data, update that data, and analyze. Once you got data, you have to analyze the data. After analyzing, you have to retrieve that information, analyze information, and display that information. Display all forms of geographically referenced information. That is definition. So definition is organized collection of computer hardware, software, geographic data, personal, designed to efficiently capture, store, update, analyze, retrieve, and display all forms of geographically different information. That is called geographic information system. This is GIS. Okay. So what is the component of GIS? GIS component one is the, if you see hardware, one of the most important hardware. Then you have a data. Then software. So hardware, software, data. Then process is involved in this process. And another thing is people also important. People. So if you miss anything in that, it will not be complete GIS. If suppose I am saying I have a GIS software, but I don't have data, so it's not useful. Okay, so this should be things like, or I have a data, I have collected data from somewhere, but I don't have software to visualize the data, or I have a data also software, but I don't have hardware to install that particular software, or you have a data is there, software is there, hardware, but it doesn't have processes. What kind of process you are going to use? So that also, then no use of that. Or if you have everything, but you don't have the people to learn, or you don't have manpower to use this software. So if you see the component wise, so it's component of GIS, people there, hardware, processes, software, and data. All these things combined will become the makes the GIS. So these are the different component of GIS. Okay. Then we will see how data is stored in GIS. The beauty of GIS is like GIS. Suppose this is the your real world. So you have a ground there, then you have sand, gravel. So but you can take different things in different layer. You can have one layer, you can have land use. So for this land, what kind of use for it will be used, for what purpose it is being. Then what are the different roads are there, so you can take the streets. Then you have district boundary that you can take it in separate layer, and land parcel. Okay, so here if you see same thing, you talk about the crops, what you have a crop layer, you will have one layer of crop, then you have another layer which have a soil, then another layer you can convert to rainfall, so you can see the distribution of rainfall, then you have farm only and many more. So that why this is the model. In GIS model, data is generated in different layer wise. Okay, the crop layer, soil layer, rainfall layer, farm boundary layer, then you have land use and many more layers. So that way, so from like if you see, so each layer you can take, then that layer you can use for different your analysis purpose. That way you can generate data. So this is the concept. So data is generated in layer wise in GIS. Okay. Now we'll just talk about the little bit of the remote sensing. So that how remote sensing. So remote sensing basically science of driving information about an object using sensor without physically contacting it. Okay, so GIS is GIS play a very important role in the your agriculture. So how we are going, like you have a sun is there, then earth is there. Now because sun, whatever energy there, light, this is basically reflected. That reflected energy captured by the satellite. Okay, this satellite is then this information which is capturing the information that is sending to ground station. From ground station it is going to data archival site. From data archival site, data product is being, so different satellite image. Once you have got the satellite data, then what we are doing, we are interpreting that data and we are driving information different, like for suppose you want to go for the land use, we can go different, what this land is being for different water purpose. Then you suppose you want to have the crop identification, then you can, what are the different crops is there. So that interpretation you have to do. So interpretation and you can do, then final product is prepared. So this is the remote sensing. So remote sensing basically science of driving information about an object using sensor without physically contacting. And then there are different kind of remote sensing there. One is the active remote sensing, passive remote sensing. So active remote sensing which use the sun's energy. Passive remote sensing which you talk about the micro data. So then there's a satellite send its own energy and reflected energy it's captured. So I'm not going to for that detail, but I'm just giving the basic of the basic definition of remote sensing, how it is work. Okay. So basic principle of remote sensing is this. So different objects based on their structural, chemical, physical properties reflect or emit different amount of energy, and that in different wavelengths ranges of this magnetic spectrum. Okay, so the sensor measure the amount of energy reflected from that object, and that's, and based on that it gives different values or different colors to the different object. So this is the basic principle of remote sensing. Okay. Now we'll talk about the data in GIS and remote sensing. Okay, so there are two types of data is used in GIS and remote. One is the spatial data that again get classified into vector data, raster data, and those are next is the non-spatial data. Basically, spatial information about this vector data. This is called non-spatial data. So spatial data which have a, like suppose you have a road. So road layer. The road comes the your spatial data, but activity of road, that road name or road width, all those things, this will come as a non-spatial data. So it gives the information of that particular data. So data is the one is the spatial data, and those are non-spatial data, activity information data. Or that also like information that either you can generate while doing the data, or you can link the external data. So that is data, so internal data, external data. So that non-spatial data. So okay. So suppose I will just give you one example. Suppose you have a district-wise map. So you have prepared a district-wise map, and you have given the district, that become your vector data or spatial data. Now you have a non-spatial data. So like when you generate the vector data or spatial GIS in the district map, so you have to give the ID. Okay, ID. So that ID become the internal data. Now their census data is there. Census data, like it has a population, male population, female population, illiteracy, all those things. That is basically stored somewhere else in the external data. So what we can do using that particular ID, because same ID is given to the district which is ID is given to the external data or sensor data. That data we can link with this ID based on ID, and that data will be visible in GIS. That is basically called the external data, which is not generated in GIS but generated other way, other place, and now you are linking with the GIS while generating the data. At that time you are not generated. So that is non-spatial data. Non-spatial data like activity information, internal data, external data we can classify. Now we'll see what is vector data. Okay, so vector data is basically spatial graphic data represented as a series of points with x and y coordinate. So like if you collect this is your external data, vector data, which have a latitude, longitude, each point xy coordinate. So these are like, if you see this is the road, so this is the external data set, which is created by clicking. So each point, like if you suppose you start digitize and you click one here, second point, third point, fourth point, so that way you can digitize and you have a straight, you complete line you can digitize. So this is the, so each data has represented a series of points with x and y coordinates. That is vector data. Now vector data again classified into three types. One is the point data. So point data represents location of a geographic entity, like one location, sample like AWS site. Suppose you can look, so this is automatic weather station location, or you have a school location, you have bank location, or you have field. So that is basically, it is represented by single point. You can see. Now line, second the line. So one is the point, second line. Line represent linear, physical, or non-physical geography. Like suppose you want to represent the generate a road layer or river. So that river or road you cannot show with the points. It can be represented by line. Okay, so represent linear, physical, non-physical geographic features, road, contour, so on. Now you have a area and polygon. Third is the area or polygon. Polygon is represent which has the represent a region enclosed with a boundary, like suppose farm boundary. Okay, then district boundary. So these you have to close. You have to, so this is like suppose you, so this is closed by the closed polygon, or this is a boundary. So represent a region enclosed within a boundary. So that is polygon. So one is the point, line, or area feature. So area point, single location represented by points, roads, linear feature represented by the line, or area feature represented by the polygon. So the point, line, polygon. These three types of vector data is there. Okay. Now second is the data is the raster data. So raster data basically geographic space data represented as a rectangular matrix of number. Here is represented a grid or pixels. So like suppose if this is the area you want to show, how it will be represented like this. If you zoom it, this is each area represented, each feature has a one pixel. Okay, so if you see the raster example of raster data is the satellite imagery. So this is the India map whole. This is a high resolution map. You can see then this is the toposity. Scan toposity is also one kind of a vector data where you can see the pixelate information. So that is a raster data. So if I want to show in the real world, suppose the real world, if you see you have a river, you have water body, and you have some forest. So in vector, how you will show? You will show the line, water body it will shown by the polygon, and this also forest area in the form of pixels. So see this pixel, this is representing the river, this is the water body, and this is the forest. This is the raster. So in raster data represented by pixels or grid format. So that is basically difference in vector and raster. Okay. Now another terms comes into the raster data is called the spectral resolution. So we'll see what is this spectral resolution. What is happening? So that describe the ability of a sensor to distinguish between wavelength interval in the electromagnetic spectrum. Like if you see electromagnetic, like if you see the, this visible band is classified in the 0.4 to 0.7. So you have blue, green, and red. Okay, so when you take in the black and white, it takes on it combine all these things to be one only. So like 4.4 you into 0.7, it will take in a single band or single film. So you will have black and white picture. So we have a like is because panchromatic resolution is only one large band, or you have high spectral resolution, high spectral, many small band, many bands are there. So like you see in the black, because when you take a single band, you have everything come into black and white. When you distinguish into three different colors, then you can capture blue. You can capture same image in the blue band like 4 to 5, then 5 to 6, and 6 to 7. So the same area you can blue into the three different band, and when you combine these three bands, you can create the color images. So that is spectral resolution. So if basically you have a panchromatic data or multispectral data or hyperspectral data, we can say. Okay. Now, second comes into the raster data spatial resolution. You might have heard about spatial resolution, like satellite image. This what is the resolution of system? Somebody says 23 by list 3, we count 23 meter. Now they are talking about Sentinel. This is 10 meter resolutions, or Iconos 1 meter resolution. We see what is that. Okay, so spatial resolution is usually refer to the size of the instantaneous field of view on the ground. So one pixel, how or the ground pixel. In one pixel, how much area is coming? Okay, the space resolution refers to the size of an instantaneous field of view or the ground pixel. Okay, so in one way, how much area we can view in the one particular pixel. So like, so if IF over the area of the ground that is viewed by the sensor at a given instant in time, as such, it usually represents the ground area that is represented by each pixel. How much ground area is represented by one particular pixel? That is called the spatial resolution. Like when we take about the say 23 meter resolution, what we say 23 meter mean 23 meter area of the ground is visible, is captured by that particular pixel. Okay, so so as such, it usually represents the ground area that is represented by each pixel in a remotely sensed images. Okay, then so the IFE can be indicated as the ground dimension of each pixel, or what is the size of each pixel in the ground. If we say like 1 meter, suppose we have a satellite with 23 meter, so each 23 meter means 23 meter pixel of that particular image is representing one pixel of that particular image is representing 23 meter into the ground. That is basically spatial resolution. So if I just say, if you see this is the raster data, I say list 3 IRS1C list 3 data. So if you see resolution 23 meter, so this each pixel, okay, is representing 23 meter onto the ground. So whatever area is there in ground in 23 meter, that is represented by a single value or single pixel. So it is basically mixed. So if you see here, this is a dam line or some spillway is there, but 23 meter resolution is there. So that it is. The moment we get higher resolution, now same area, if you see the resolution 5.8 meter, means one pixel is representing 5 point. Here, this clarity improved, features is appearing more clearly in this particular image because we have made the resolution, we have increased the earlier the area which is coming into the same one area which is in 23 meter, now it is split into say 4 pixel now. So now you have more clarity in that particular image. If you see, if you this image, this line is not very clearly visible, but here you can see very clearly visible. So 23 meter, this is a penetrator. Now in raster data, what happened? You can mix that. Like earlier, what we so we can mix this pixel and you can. So now here is, if you see what I have done the list 3 images. And so what I did basically, I took the spectral resolution of the this list 3 image, which I went 1, went 2, went 3, and spatial resolution of I have taken of this panchromatic image, and I have merged. So I have created the multispectral image of the 5.8 meter resolution. So you can see now your clarity has improved. If you see here, you can your difference feature. You can if you see in this image, you are not able to see differentiate feature very easily. Here you can see you can easily differentiate because of the color. Different color is being given to different feature. So that is. So this is a 5.8 meter resolution. Then we go higher resolution. Now this, if you see, this is 1 meter resolution. So same dam you can see very clearly. Okay. So that is. Hello. 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 Can you? I request everybody to mute. Hello.
Yes, continue.
Continue. So is it till now? Is there any question for in this whatever I have shown, or if you want something, then we can explain. If you want something about the remote sensing GIS, then we can go, or we can move further. Hello. Okay. So. Okay, so now till now just we have seen about the definition of GIS, the definition of remote sensing, and some spectral resolution and basics and spatial resolution of the GIS and data type of data. Now we'll see functionality of what kind of functionality this GIS we can do with the GIS and remote sensing. Okay, so first is the data acquisition. We can acquire a lot of data from using GIS and remote sensing. Then we can go for image classification. Once we have got the satellite data, or we get, then we can classify the data for different purpose. Okay. Then once we have got data, then we can store that data. So this data can be stored, and whenever you want, you can retrieve the data. Okay. Then once you store data, then you can display the data. in different format. In the map format, you can display the data. Then you can go for data query. Different query you can do with this data, whatever data you have acquired in storage. Then different kind of query you can do. That means what kind of query. And then we can go for different kind of analysis in data. This data we can go for different analysis and generate various reports and results from doing analysis. Okay, so this will. So now, what are the data acquisition sources for GIS? One of the sources, the existing paper maps. So paper map, like best example is your cadastral map or CASA. So what you can do, you can suppose you want to generate a cadastral map or farm boundary map. What you can do, you can use the existing map, you can digitize and you can prepare the data. Second, you can go for the field observation. You can go to the field, you can collect from the field data. Say for example, suppose you want to collect some crop condition data, or if not, because sometimes not available from satellite image or photographs, then you can go to field, you collect data, and that data you can collect data. Then set a GPS. Now GPS is using very hard, so you can collect GPS data. Even road layers, survey you can do with GPS. You can take your GPS, go to the field, collect data, and bring up data. Or next is the sensor, as I say, satellite. So data sources are, one is the existing map, then field observation, field survey, then GPS or sensors, aerial photography, satellite. This data we can different data we can generate from there. This is the source of data. Then next is your image classification. We have got the data. Now you have to classify the image. Basically, it's very important in agriculture, so that I have taken in initial early first now. So like what is the image classing? So it is a process of assigning all pixels in the image to particular classes or theme. As you know, all the satellite image in the information captured in the forms of pixel, and each pixel has given one value that is called the DN value, okay, or reflectance value. So now, when we classify image, how we can classify the image? So assigning all pixels in the image to a particular class of themes. For example, water, coniferous forest, deciduous forest, corn, wheat, etc., agriculture. So that way we can classify the image. Now, so the spectral information represented by the digital number is one or more spectral band is used to classify each individual pixel, as I said earlier. So each pixel you can give in some class where it will come. Okay. So how it is classified process is that the classified image comprises a mosaic of pixels, each one belongs to a particular theme and is essentially thematic map. So if you see here, this is these pixels will be classified one class, this pixel will classified second image, second class. So that way you can generate a thematic maps or classified maps. This is the input data. This is okay. Now, so there are two types of classification in image process. One is the supervised classification, and second is the unsupervised classification. So in supervised classification, what we can supervised classification involve some form of operator supervision in the specified numerical distribution of various land cover types present in the particular scene or a particular. So what happens? You know this area. What is this area? You have it. So you can tell system, okay, this particular area, say this is a rock area. So you can just give one pixel, identify this area, give one pixel, identify this class, or identify give as a class rock, C class is rock. Similarly, if you hear water, then B you can say agriculture. Now what happened? Wherever in entire image, wherever you find the same pixel value or DN value which we had given to the rock, it will classify as a rock. Similarly, water, wherever we have, because one class we had given as a water. So wherever it will find the same value or same range of value in a pixel, it will classify as a your water body and the other case. So now entire image can be classified in A, B, C classes. So in supervised classes, basically operator or user tell image, okay, this feature is a basically rocky area. This is the area which is a agriculture area. This is the water body. So based on these classes, enter this system uses this particular DN value, whatever coming in that under this particular polygon or class, it will assign for that particular entire image. So that is basically you call the supervised classification. Okay, so you can similarly in unsupervised class, basically what happened in unsupervised class was we just define classify that area in number of classes. So what happened? The process requires minimum operator supervision. No training data is provided. Here and earlier we have provided training data, and user define only the number of classes and the type of clustering. You can say which kind of like K-means clustering. This software is there that so you can just number of I want to classify that entire image in the 5 classes. Now, So it is that remotely sensed images are composed of spectral classes that are reasonably uniform in respect to brightness level in spectral channel. We assume that this all the feature will have most of the feature, like suppose rock is there, so all the same in the rocky area, same pixel will be given to the entire image, same pixel value will be given to the entire, that we assume based on that. That's why. Okay, so like suppose the DN values, when we go for this, so this area, if I say I have classified into 3 classes, so whatever, like if you see 98, 97, 90, this area it will take into the one class. 98, 96, it will classify into the so wherever the area which is between 80 or 90, it is classified into the class B, because this is a range of samples. Whatever area which a pixel will be more than 170, this will classify into the another one class C. Similarly, area which is less than 10 or less than 20 DN value, is will classify into one class. So that way entire area will classify into the three, like water A, B, C. Earlier in supervised classes, you have to tell the system, okay, this particular area belongs to this class, and this area this area is water body, this is rocky land, this is the agriculture. But when you go unsupervised classes, you what you have to define, you just give the classify that area into the 3 classes based on the pixel value present in that particular image. It will classify the image, it will identify those particular DN values and give a one class for that. Okay, so like if you see here, whatever value which is coming between 80 to 90, it is giving as a B. Okay, whatever pixel value which have more than 180 or 170, it is classifying as a C. And here, whatever pixel value which is features pixels which have a DN value less than around 20, it is classified A. So that we, so these are 2 types of. But most of the time in remote sensing, we prefer into the supervised classes, because in that you have a control. Okay, so you can identify, because suppose once you have classified, you have suppose in this area where you have classified, this is the agriculture area, but you have given, but this area is also agriculture, but it has not classified directly, it has merged with some other classes. So in that case, what happens? You can identify a new feature over here, new class over here. Right? So suppose here the ranges classes, DN value range is say around 180 to 190, but this is agriculture, but DN value here it has come into 160 to 170. So in that case, what happened? Whatever area, so in this case, what happened? It will classify only, it will classify the area which is having value 180 to 90 into agriculture. But because this area is also agriculture, but DN value reflected, it is only 160 to 170. So it will not classify into the agriculture. So what you have to do, you can also give another test, you have sample over here. Okay, so what you can create another polygon and assign him as agriculture. So next time when you run the again you run the classification, so this area is also, it will classify into the agriculture. So that way you can, so you have a control. But when you go for unsupervised classing, it based on numeric value, DN value, it will classify in that number of classes. Suppose you are going for the 3 classes, it will take. When you go 5 classes, then it will increase that range. Like suppose in this case, it is taking 170 to 181. 177 to 181, it is classified. But if you are going more number of classes, it may merge 170 to 178 one classes, and 183, 180 in another classes, and 181 into the third classes. So this itself, this area can be classified into 3 classes, which is being now classified into the 1 classes. But you have to do a lot of after post process, post classification editing, lot of editing we have to do. So that's why we always prefer go for the supervised classification. Okay, that was this one. Now, next functionality of GIS is the data storage. So what we can do, you can collect data. So spatial data is like it will collect it in terms of line, polygon, or point, and other attribute is collected into some attribute tables. So that way you can collect storage data. Okay, and so spatial data shape and position of feature on the surface, and attribute data reflection of that. So that storage you can do. For example, you have a cadastral map, so you can prepare a cadastral map, and related information that you can store as a activity information. So what is the cadastral number is there, what kind of crop being shown on that particular crop, that plot, that thing you can store into the in the form of attribute data. So that is storage. Now data display. So another very good functionality of GIS is the data display. So data display can be displayed in the maps, graph, and chart. And In a one map, you can give the multiple display you can give. If you see, suppose this map, so what is showing this map? I am representing in this map, I am representing the three information. One is the this is the distribution SC/ST population map. So first is it is the region area. It is the Khajuraho heritage region. Actually, I did long back in the project in Khajuraho, so that data I took. So this is the area Khajuraho heritage region. So there are different villages are there. So you can see this is different village names are there. Then you can see one data you can see in the village data. Second, you are showing the distribution of crop. Sorry, different cost wise. Okay, so this is, if you see here in this particular taluk, this is the village, this is the Khajuraho village. So how distributed? So this is only other caste and you have a scheduled caste. In this particular, these are two populations there. But along with this, what I am also showing here, the population size by population. So based on this circle, so you can see this circle is representing population around 6,541. Okay, so population of this, then population density also I am showing. So if you see in this map, what information I am showing? First, I am showing the village, then I am showing the population density. So based on this color, you can say what is the population density. So population density 250 to 350 per square kilometer in this particular. Then what I am showing the total population. So total population is showing in the circle. So this, you can see this like 6,541 is the total population of this particular village. Or then how this distributed population. This is a scheduled caste and other caste. So that way, so in GIS, what you can do, you can use the data, the multiple information you can display in a single map. Okay, if you take example for the agriculture point of view, suppose you have maps, what you can see the farm boundary, then you can see the crop map. Similarly, you can superimpose the rainfall distribution also. So how rainfall, what is the rainfall? So what is the rainfall different villages? That also you can show. So that way multiple information you can display in the GIS. That is the beauty of GIS. Okay. Now we can go to the data. So what we have done, we have generated data. We have stored the data in terms of spatial data and in terms of attribute data, non-spatial data. Then we have display also. Now, then you can go for different data analysis query in GIS. So once data is generated, then you can go different query analysis. So the real key is that the data in GIS can be used to effectively, efficiently perform queries. Basically answer the question, but different answers. Then analysis. User allow user to identify spatial relations between map features. I will explain one by one. So what kind of query you can ask in GIS? Like what is it at? Suppose you have got the map, you could click on that map, you can say what is it at? Suppose. Okay, so you can click and you can find what is the answer. Okay, suppose you have a district map. Now, district map is there, but you don't know this. You click on particular district, then it will say, okay, this district that is Pune. Okay, so you can click and you can get the information. So location and look what is at that particular location. Or suppose you have some you have a automatic weather stations is there, or you have in single map you have automatic weather stations there, school location is there, police station location there, hospital location there. So what you can do, you can click at any feature, it will say what is this. So suppose you click on particular point, it will say okay, it is the AWS automatic weather station, or it is school. So that you can find what is there at particular location, you can find from the GIS. Second, what you can do, where is it? Now suppose you want to know in that particular, where are there AWS station is located, where are AWS is there. So when you can go to the layer, point layer, you say show me the AWS station, this particular district, whatever. So it is highlighted AWS scale. Or you want to know where is the school is located. So you can say go with the school. So that way you can hide. But the same way you are doing in the Google now, everybody is doing, when you are using the Google map, what you basically, where it is. So suppose you want to know one particular source, one office, what you are doing, you are typing that particular location. Immediately it is highlighted where it is, condition which is matching, where is it. So that basically GIS using. So you determine why it is happening. Something happened. Like you can also, like suppose you have you have got the crop map, or crop production map, or crop yield map. Now suddenly, why it has happened? The crop production had reduced in that particular area. So that why it is. So then you can go for analysis. Okay, you can either you can see irrigation was not done properly, or it was affected by pest. So that way you can find it why it has happened. Now second is can answer the trends. What has changed since? Like suppose you want to go in this particular district. Now if you see how much the area agriculture area is converted into the urban areas, that you can, so you can, what you can find, suppose you have a 2000 map, say for the example, I say Pune, I have a 2000 map of Pune land use land cover. Now I have a 2020 map of full layer. So what has changed from 2020 to 2002 to 2002? That you can find out with the GIS. So what trend has changed, you can say. Then you can say, what if suppose you have a, you can go what if scenarios also. Like suppose you want to suppose this is the soil condition is this, and groundwater water condition then. So what kind of crop we can grow in this particular area? So you have model agriculture scientists suggest, okay, suppose there's a loamy soil but the good water. So what kind of agriculture crop can be grown? That is that kind of modeling you can do in the GIS. So these are the GIS we can say. You can find out what is that particular location, or where is that location, why it has happened, why it determines. Like suppose productivity is reduced, why, what is the reason for reducing the productivity, that you can find out from GIS. Then what has changed since particular time, and what will happen if I will do like this, that way. Okay, suppose you so that way you can modeling you can do in the GIS. Okay. Now then we can have different kind of analysis. So you can have classification. So you can classify that particular area. Now this is the classification different from the remote sensing classification. Here you can classify in the map into different features, like based on crop, based on other parameter. Like suppose you want to show the you just want to show the distribution of different crop in a district. Then you can just classify it, crop by that particular district. You can find it, okay, what kind of crop. Then you can also generate statistics, area under different crop, that you can generate from the analysis you can do in the GIS. Then you can also generate the buffer around a canal or buffer around a point. Like so that buffer you can suppose you, so canal is there, we can say this canal irrigation can be performed from this canal, say up to 500 meters from the canal. So you can generate, you can run a you can just generate a buffer around that canal. You can find out what are the farm which is coming within particular within 500 meters of that particular canal. So that you can find out. Otherwise it is very difficult to go and manually check that. Okay. Then second comes the overlay. This is a very important feature of GIS. Whatever overlay, different layer you can generate, 2 layer you can overlay, and you can generate third map, which is very useful. Okay, so that overlay. And then interpolation extraction, because in GIS, in this agriculture, interpolation extraction is very important. Like suppose you are getting this meteorological data from AWS station. So now to distribute that, to generate rainfall map or temperature map for end area, what happens? You have location temperature data, but you want to prepare a map of that entire. What you have to do, you have to interpolate whatever data you are collecting from the AWS, that you have to interpolate, and you can generate map for the entire area. So that interpolation you can do in the GIS. Okay. So just I am going to take the overlay analysis in detail, because this is very important and very useful in agriculture. So like many problems in geographic analysis require the integration of data from a number of sources. Like suppose if you have a agriculture also, now you want to analyze the soil data also, you require the crop data also, then you require the groundwater data, water ability data also. So based on that you can take some decision. Okay, so now what happens? You have to integrate data from different sources and generate fourth map. So major problem agriculture analysis require the integration data from a number of sources. So they require overlay analysis. Okay, so what is this process is stacking 2 or more spatial layers on top of each other, so that each point of the area can be analyzed in terms of this data layer. Each point we can find out. Okay, similarly. So operation of comparing various themes among multiple layers. This is called a multiple layer you can generate, and require both graphic and attribute comparison. So in this case, both graphic as well as attribute we can do the comparison. I'll just show some of the example over here. So this, suppose this is the map is there. Now what happens? One is the one layer. It has a 1, 2, 3 polygon. And you have second layer, it has a 2 polygon only. It's a 1, 2, 3, it has 1, 2. Now you can generate the third map after overlaying. So what happens in this particular area? Now you have how many polygons? 7 polygons are there. So this is now, so each polygon have this particular polygon. See, one have a value. What happens? One is layer 2 is a layer, as per layer 1 it is a attribute 2, and as per layer it is classes 1 as 1. So it has a feature both 1 and 2 we are merging there. Okay, so that we can similarly you can generate for the raster also overlay. So you can generate third message, this one layer, second layer, you have generated third layer. Now you have more detail in this particular. How you are getting only 1, 2, 3 feature. Here you get only 2 feature, but in this map you are getting 7 feature of that particular area. 7 attributes you are getting. Okay, 7 feature you can get. 7 polygon, 7 features. So this particular polygon has feature of this also and this also. So now there are two types of overlay. One is the union and intersection. Union is the, I will just enter. Okay, so union is the, okay, so you need to produce a combination of two layers. Determine the combination of two GIS database. Resulting GIS data extend as per input data layer and activity data access. This, suppose this is the one layer is this and this is another layer. So now when you go for the second layer, the third map which is generated overlay map, output is this. So you have a this kind of data. Okay, now this is the example just I have prepared for you only. So you have a crop data, then we have a soil data. Okay, so this crop wise, this area has a wheat and maize. If you see here is the clay and soil. Now what I have done when I did a overlay, and so this now we have, because this now we have, when we have overlay, we have got this output map. So this is the one polygon. So one polygon, if you see in this particular polygon, crop by it a wheat crop and soil is loamy. Okay, similarly in this two polygon, polygon 2, it has a wheat and clay. How it is used, when it is useful, now I will tell you. Now suppose you want to, as an agriculture scientist, or you want to design, suppose you want to know, show me the area which is has the crop is wheat and soil is loamy. Now if you show a single layer, but it will be very difficult to find out which is the area, exact area which is come, because this I have taken two polygons, so you can see it, but you have thousands of polygons, or then it will be very difficult for a human to identify, a man to find out which is the area which is a crop wise wheat and soil is the soil wise is the loamy soil. So now if you see, when suppose we can find, okay, this is the area which is the crop wise wheat and soil is loamy. Now suppose you want to, when you want to give the some you want to go for some other modeling, something like that. So then you can go for like where the wheat crop is soil is loamy. Now you say have to give some advice you have to generate based on for the soil which is crop wheat and soil is loamy. So we can say identify, show me the area where the wheat is crop is wheat and soil is loamy. So that area will be identified. In that particular area, suppose you want to give some advice, you can give the advice for that particular area, or you can plan something else. Okay. Similarly, here I have taken very simple example. Suppose similarly you have a rainfall also. Okay, so distributed rainfall also. So you can say, show me the area which is crop area where crop grown is a wheat, soil is loamy, rainfall is less than 10. So wherever you're matching this kind, that particular area will identify. Now you can select, okay, if this particular area where, if this area where soil is loamy and rainfall is say less than 10, if we suggest to grow, in spite of wheat, we suggest to grow some other crop, so you can suggest that. Okay, so that way you can suggest that. So this is the importance of GIS. You can overlay two layers. So I am just giving the two layers here. It's very simple. If you have multiple layer, then you can find out the how it is useful for that as a scientist. Okay. Now intersection. What are the finding the overlapping area between the two? Here is just finding the overlapping, which is exactly coming over here. In earlier case, we take all the feature, but which is coming the overlapping. So if suppose this is the input layer, this is the input 1, input 2. When we go for the intersect, it will identify this much area only. Okay, which is coming to the effect. Okay. So this is how it is useful. Suppose you have a you have a canal, or you have some ponds or dam is there. Now you say this dam of this service area of this particular dam, say around 500 meter from this particular location. So now what you can do, you can dam, you can around that dam you can generate buffer of 500 area. So now you get one layer. Now you wanted to know what are the farms which is coming within that 500 meter area of that particular dam. So what you can do, you can go for intersect layer, and so when you just run the intersect layer, it will identify those farm which is coming within 500 area or left other plot over here, other farm boundaries. Then you can go, you can find, okay, this area is, these are the plot, these are the plot boundary, a plot which is being irrigated from that particular dam. So that you can find out. Yeah, so like here, if you see, this is the input layer 1, this is input layer. Now intersect, it will identify, because this is the area, so this is the area, it is identify this area only. Otherwise, if you want to go manually, it will be very difficult to manually delete each and other polygon, or suppose you want to edit layer. So it's this way you can immediately find out the layer which is coming into that particular, within that particular polygon. So this is the intersections. Okay. So this is now we have just seen about basics of GIS remote sensing, what kind of data we can use, what kind of different functionality what are the different functionality of GIS and remote sensing, what kind of query we can do, what kind of analysis we can do in GIS. Okay, now we'll show how this GIS technology can play an important role in agriculture. This I want to see. Okay, so if we talk about the applications of remote sensing, these are broad applications which are currently being used. So what are the first is the land use and cover mapping. So any agriculture process or planning what you require to land use and cover mapping of that particular any particular area where you are working. Then when you talk about the land use, you require soil also. So how can you go for soil mapping because planning and then along with soil, you also wanted to know identify problematic soil. I will give an example. Like in UP, if you see there is UP, there are a lot of area affected by salt. So this is sodic mapping, sodic land. So now this is the problematic. Now you went to government to wanted to identify. So with the area which is a plot which is coming under the sodic land or salt affected land. So what we can do is we have done. We just took the satellite image, demarcate the area based on the reflectance value, identify okay, these are the plot or these are area which is mostly affected by soil. So identify the problematic soil also we can do with the another area, fixed area. Then crop identification. Crop identification is very important for the planning and for national planning and decision. So there is another requirement is the crop identification. How much area, how much crop of say suppose you want to wheat, how much wheat is being grown in any state or any district. So that for that you require a crop identification and identify area. Then crop condition assessment and statistics, and also how is the crop condition? That also any requirement is there. Okay, is a very good application for that. Then is the crop production, how much crop will be produced. That is another application which is required by agriculture scientists and planning and for decision makers for planning. So crop production forecasting, that is. Then assessment of crop damage and crop progress. A lot of damage is breaking because of sometimes we have excess cold or some excess rainfall, so crop is being damaged. So that also is to assess that crop damage also is another application, is very important. Now crop yield forecasting. How much crop will be yield from one particular plot or one particular district. That is also required for crop yield forecasting. How we can do based on the crop. First you have to identify crop, the area, then you can think how much, what could be the yield for that particular district or particular farmland that we can see. Then crop area acreage estimation, that is also very important application in the agriculture. Then another is cropping system analysis and prepare new cropping. Now, what kind of cropping system is there in one particular area, and how we can suggest for new cropping systems. That is another application is in agriculture. Now, then identification of planting and harvesting dates. Okay, based on the weather condition and based on the weather kind we can what could be the planting and harvesting, or based on the soil crop condition we can suggest what would be the harvesting date or what would be the planting date. Then identify a pest and disease and infestation. Identify pest also. This is another important application in agriculture because many times crops will be damaged by the pest. Okay. Then soil moisture estimation also very important so that you can plan the irrigations. Okay. Then irrigation monitoring management. How area will how much area water required. Or farm is taking how much water it is taking, how should what water should be released. That is also. Then crop insurance, another thing now is because crop insurance, there's crop insurance companies also required what kind of crop insurance can be given or. Then another important is the generation of advisory. This is very common nowadays. Okay, so these are the different applications which I just go to the literature and by preparing this presentation. So these are the very important applications in agriculture basically. So like land use and cover mapping, soil mapping, identification of problematic soil, crop identification of crop, then crop condition assessment, then crop production forecasting, then crop damage and assessment, then crop yield forecasting, crop acreage estimation, cropping system analysis, planting and harvesting dates, pest identification of pest and disease infestation, then soil moisture estimations. What kind of moisture is there in soil? So irrigation can be whether require water, crop require water or not. That can be thing. Then irrigation monitoring and management. then crop insurance, and generation of advisory. So these are some of the applications which we can see. Now, so for all these applications, when we have just
such as paper and timber processor,
hello,
एक इसमें part आता है तुम्हारा
hello,
horticultural farming.
yeah, Dr. Bhati, you are asking me.
What's the commercial farming of crops such as fruits, vegetables?
Hello, hello, yeah, Dr. Bhati, can you talk again? Hello, hello, should we move again further? Hello, I'm audible?
Audible.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir, please continue.
Sir, you are audible.
Okay. Yeah. So now for all these applications which we have just discussed in the last slide, what is the requirement? Requirement is the detailed agriculture data. One of the most important requirement is detailed agriculture data. Then if we have got data, then we require tool to integrate data, because data is coming from different sources. So integration of data is also required. Now we have another important is because this agriculture is a dynamic thing. It's not it will be applicable regular. So because suppose today is some farmer is growing one crop, tomorrow he go for the second crop. Okay, so he can change the crop. So we have regular updation of data is also very much requirement for the planning. So one is the requirement is detailed agriculture data, integration of data, then regular updation data. Then once we have got data, updated data, then we have analysis of data. Okay, and modeling of this data, modeling using this data. So analysis of data and modeling. This is basically for planning and management. Then next requirement is advice generation, dissemination to farm. So this is the basically major requirement for the to fulfill all the analysis, complete analysis which we have discussed last time. So detailed agriculture data, integration of data, regular updation data, analysis of data, and advice generation. Now we can see how remote sensing GIS can play impact. So remote sensing make it possible to generate and update agriculture data very fast, like land use data, crop area, soil type, soil moisture, water ability, groundwater ability, all these things. This data, how we can generate? We can generate this data is required for analysis. This can be generated very fast than the satellite data, and it can be updated regularly. Like suppose we have last year satellite data, this year satellite data, next year satellite data, so that we can update regular data. A basic principle is why just I am giving again just to revise, like each crop or each feature has a different reflectance value under the different band. So like suppose if you say dead crop, if you have like blue, green, red, almost same reflectance value it is coming. Stressed leaf, it has some different, but when healthy crop, so it is giving maximum reflectance in the near infrared. So that's why it shows red. Based on this, the bright red color is there. Suppose some particular leaf or some crop is there. If a very dull red color is very weak red or light red color is there, and of the same crop, or we have very bright red color, then we can say this is this crop is not condition not that good. This is a very healthy crop. That way we can differentiate color. This is the example I'm just showing here. Okay, so remote sensing which you use for land use, crop area, soil type, soil moisture, water ability, that we can prepare for the land use. And GIS, what GIS make it? Once data is collected, okay, so this data we can take into GIS, and we can collect, update, and manage aggregate data from different sources. So now what happened? GIS can combine the data, like I say overlay and come. So but this what is made possible? It collect, update, and manage aggregate data from different sources. Then data is just analysis, classification, query, etc. we can do. I'll show you the example in coming slide. Then combination of various layer themes to build, analyze new variables that we can use with the GIS. Then interpolation of meteorological data, it can be generated from there. And then aggregate advice generation and dissemination with the GIS. Using GIS we can do. So this thing we can do. I'll just show. So this one of the first of the, when you talk about agriculture data is required the cadastral map. Okay, so cadastral map, you can just digitize the data, cadastral map, you can generate the cadastral. Now how we can update? Suppose this particular farm is there. Now suppose tomorrow it has been divided in two parts. So easily what you can do, you can just go to this particular polygon or this plot, you can divide into two plots. So you will not have to prepare the new map from scratch. So whatever map is there, you can just this map itself you can update, and you have an up-to-date map. So that kind of map database you can update and prepare GIS. But most important is the cadastral. So first layer is the cadastral map you can do, but it's a very tedious job because this is generated, this survey is done long back. So different basically we have to geocode all those that way. It takes, but it is now being generated. Okay, so that we can do. So digital database of cadastral. Even government has started that, they did the aerial photography. From aerial photography, then you can generate the cadastral map. Now the Survey of India is also doing. They are doing the drone survey. From drone survey, they are digitizing the cadastral map boundaries. So they will take the photograph that entire area, then will bring into GIS. Then they differentiate, digitize all the farm boundaries and give the ID for each owner name, all those things. So that can be generated. So digital data cadastral model can be generated. Now identify the crop areas. We have got another requirement, the crop area identity, which so that is how we can do in the GIS. This is the actually project which SHIDAC, my team did in Aragan Bidak Taluka, this Sangli district of Maharashtra. This is a requirement by the irrigation department. Okay, so here, hello. So here we have used. Hello. Here we use the Sentinel satellite data, which is freely available, and date was the 10th April 2017. Okay. Okay. So. Hello. Hello. Can we continue?
You continue.
So now what? So what we did for the crop identification, as I said, we have used the supervised classification technique here. So what first we did, we went to the we got the satellite data. Okay, we download the satellite Sentinel data. This is 10-meter resolution. Okay, this is the 10th April. Now what we did, we had identified few points on the satellite data where different features there, and when we went to the field, okay, so we took from this field form we have generated. So like these are like we have a sugarcane, crops, maize, no crop. These are the area which, if you see this particular, at that time we have a crop, sugarcane crop, the grapes was there, maize was there, some of the area where the fallow land was there, and this is the major early stage. These areas. So we went there, we have collected 501 points for entire area. Okay, I will just show you. So this, if you see, this is the Google Earth image, this is the A point, is the beetle leaves. So in the Google image, it is showing like this. In the Sentinel data, it was showing like this. Okay, okay, and ground it was like this. Similarly, grapes, how grapes was visible. So grapes B, if you see grapes is giving this kind of reflections in Google Earth. Here it is giving this kind of reflection in Sentinel data and field. So this, if you can see difference, you can see like this crop feature, easily we can differentiate between these two features based on the reflective red color identity. Okay, so that way. So now what we did, we went to the field, we have identified some location crop, then we have classified the entire image. Similarly, we took for this banana plantation also. Like this is the banana plantation. There are two types of plantation. One is the very good stage in growth, and this is the is a moderate stage. So then, if you see in the both classes are banana, but see difference is based as per the growth. They have a different signature, different color they are giving the satellite image. So we went to the field. We have identified few locations. We have identified the crops. Then we have matched that crop in the satellite image, and we classify and give that particular class under here. So now based on that, what we had done, we have classified the entire area. Now we got the crop map. So we did with the 4 different classifier, and we find out that with the spectral angle mapping, this is giving the best result for us. Okay, so what we have done, basically this area we have classified into grapes, sugarcane, beetle, other crop, and this way area we have classified. Now we have got the how much. So in what are the area of different crop we can find out from here. Okay, so this is so that way we have generated the crop area. Now this area, that data you can take into GIS, and you can find out the different area wise crop, and then you can superimpose show me the area which is the what are the area which is having the crop wheat, and what is the soil condition over there. So that kind of link we can find out over here. Okay, so this thing analysis also we can do, like suppose one of the area where crop condition is very good or crop growth is very good, and so that particular area soil says loamy, and groundwater condition is very good, and this. So now what we can do, you can run the you can identify the area which is the soil is loamy, ground condition is good, so it will identify the area. Now you can see in that particular what crop is being grown. Suppose they are going some other areas. What you can suggest, because say banana crop is very good in the soil where soil is loamy, groundwater condition is this. So you can suggest farmer next time onward you can shift to this particular crop because this is giving very good result in area in the same area in some other in the area which is having where banana crop is being grown, where soil is loamy, groundwater. So that way you can suggest things. Okay, so that we can take in the GIS and you can go for analysis. So here you can, so what we can do, you can classify the agriculture area. Now if you go manually or survey, it will take a lot of time, but remote sensing we can easily classify into the crop by area, crop by map we can prepare. Now similarly we can prepare the land use map. So land use map for entire area we can, if like see in this particular area we have prepared agricultural land. So we have a double crop, single crop, agro horticulture, plantation. Then forest land also, dense forest, open forest, scrub forest, wasteland also, land with scrub, land without a scrub, and stony waste. That way we can prepare the land use. Now based on different analysis we can suggest proposed land use map also using GIS different techniques. So land use map you can prepare. Similarly, you can land use statistics also you can prepare in GIS. Once it will go into GIS, each polygon have area, so you can classify how much is the agriculture area, how is the forest area, what is the wasteland area. So that easily you can find, you can analysis or you can find out in the GIS, because you can prepare land use and statistics you can find out this area and the total of percentage of areas in this particular area. You can say built up area is this. So agriculture area, total of area of that particular area, 32.64 of the percent is the agriculture area. 23 is the forest area. So that way we can find out. Like similarly, wasteland is. So you have wasteland, most of the area is affected by wasteland, 34%. So that way you can do analysis. Now, so now what happened for agriculture? You require a lot of other data also, like soil. So you can collect data from different sources. You can collect and you can integrate that data for your planning purpose or planning purpose and defining new things. Okay, so you can get the soil data. You can integrate into GIS. Similarly, you can get the soil master data. Okay. Similarly, you can get the temperature data. So these are data from different source, and you can bring and you can combine. You can use for the your study. Okay. So you can get. Similarly for temperature. So this is the proposed temperature. So that also you can use for your analysis purpose. This is precipitation map. So like now, so here what happened till now, what we have done, we have got this weather data. So we have prepared the land use data. We have got the soil crop data. We have prepared the crop data. Then similarly, we have collected soil data, different meteorological data. We have collected from open source available. Now, sometime also you also collect a lot of, like agriculture department also collect a lot of data, automate this AWS data. Okay, from automatic weather station, or they have their field stations. From there also they collect the data. Now this data require the interpolation of data, because so what happens, you can collect data, you can take into GIS. So this is the data, like station name and what is the different value of particular say for temperature, rainfall, what is this, that you can take in data into this. This is data comes into tabular format, and each location have your latitude, longitude, and tabular. So you have a temperature, rainfall, humidity, all the data is coming from AWS, each location. Now this data you can interpolate. So this is for I did for annual rainfall map. So you can see we have a these are the locations. But each location we had a rainfall data. Now what we had done, we had interpreted data. So we have got the data for the entire area. Okay, so this you can do regular basis also. Like every day you are coming data. Every day you can generate map, because your system is set. You just have to do the input. You have to run the interpolation. It will give you the map, daily map. That data you can use into the planning purpose. Okay, so that way you can go for the interpolation also. Now you have got the data. As I suppose you are a planner, your decision maker, or you want to plan something, so then you want to know the different queries also you can run. So suppose you want to know, you have a Maharashtra, so with the district which is having the crop, maize crop is there. Okay, what are the, so first you go to the GIS, select crop equal to maize, it will highlight. Okay, these are the district which have the maize crop, so that you can identify from here. Okay, so that is the query you can do. Similarly, you can crop map you can prepare, like what we have done. So like this is the distribution of, you want to crop wise map you want to prepare. You can say in this map you say, okay, this is the area of wheat, this is the maize, this is the cotton, so this is the rice, this is the area. Okay, this, so that classify you can prepare the map you can prepare. Now that I said now you can display superimpose two information. Here what I have done, I have shown the crop as well as rainfall. Okay, so you can see like this is the, if you see this particular district, suppose I talk about the Pune district. So this is a taluk, in Pune taluk, you can say crop wise it's a wheat, but rainfall is distribution. So this particular taluk has the rainfall 400 to 500 meters. This is near, this is Lonavala and Khandalawala area. Okay, so you can say that the Western Ghats we have more rainfall. Similarly, you have this area is 100 to 200 mm rainfall. So you can say the two information you are giving. So so in information what you can do, you can get the crop map as well as the rainfall distribution. That two information you can find out here. So this third information also you can link. Suppose you want to go temperature distribution also, you can with the third particular thing you can give the third. So you can find out the one map what you are finding, two information you are getting. One is the crop distribution as well as the rainfall distribution. So that way you can do things. Okay. Now, but I was taking now you have, so now you have a now you have got the meteorological data. You have got the soil data, you have got the existing land use data, you have got the groundwater condition data, everything. Now you can go for the proposed land use. So based on different parameters of different your what you call features or properties, you can go for the proposed map. Here, if I see this, the proposed map we have given here. So here, if you see, just this is the existing land use map at that time, and now this we had proposed. If you see this particular area, if you see this area, is the most of the area is the land, this is the under the wasteland condition. Okay, or this is the area, most of the area, if you see light yellow, it was under the single crop. So what we have proposed, you can go for different double crop area. Okay, intensive agriculture you can do. So that kind of propose based on the soil condition, based on the groundwater condition, or you can suggest if you have a, if you make available water irrigation facility, then it can be converted into the cropland. So that kind of proposed plan can be suggested using GIS. So what we can do, we can go with different layer wise. What is the temperature status? What is the rainfall distribution? What is the groundwater availability? What is the soil class? And then we can suggest key for what type of crop it can be used. Okay, supposing farm is taking only single crop, we can go for the double crop, or we can go for different kind of silviculture, horticulture things we can suggest them. Like suppose wasteland is there. So in wasteland we not go for crop, but at least we can go for the horticulture, silviculture type thing. So that kind of thing we can propose using the doing different kind of analysis in the GIS. Different data we can collect, we can superimpose, we can analyze the data in GIS, and we can propose the proposed land use map. We can propose. Okay. Now, last we are coming to advisory generation. Now it's because we have to give the farmers, we have to give the advisory also. Okay, so now this advisory depends on various conditions, like it's like temperature, what is the temperature status, what is the rainfall, what is the crop growth, what is the humidity, what is the soil moisture in that area. So based on that condition, because this data you are getting from the AWS location, okay, and growth you are getting from your field data. So based on that, what we can suggest advices for the farmers. So what you have an input layer, you have a crop data, you have a land use data, crop data is there, the groundwater data is there, then you have a temperature distribution data is also there, and soil data is there, and this condition we can see what is the temperature. So temperature layer is there, then you can run for what is the temperature in that. Suppose temperature less than 20, so you can see temperature. Suppose you want to identify which is the area has less than 20 degrees centigrade. So in temperature map, it will run area which is having the temperature is the less than 20 meters. Or you can say what is the crop. So suppose you want to link, suppose show me the area which is temperature less than 20, crop is say wheat. Okay, so it will, then you, based on that, you have to generate some advice that, like as a agricultural scientist, you know better what kind of advice we can give. So that analysis, what system can do, input, it will have input layer, it will have a condition you can define in the GIS, then analysis you can do based on this condition, and advisory can be generated, and then that advisory can display on the map. So farmers can see the map, or they can say, okay, what is the advisory for my area or my farm, or that you can see, or you can give it to the or a picture map. You can just circulate in the TV or internet, so that they can on the map they can just see on the internet map. Okay, for my area, what is the advice that can be? So this can be generated in the GIS. I'll just give some of the example, like crop specific advice based on forecasted weather condition. This is a crude example I have taken. After analyzing forecast rainfall, temperature, and relative humidity, it is advised that termite may attack wheat crop. Okay, so now you have got, as per the forecasted rainfall, temperature, and relative humidity, it is like termite may attack wheat crop. So what system? The system can identify areas and designate specific advice, like if symptoms of termite appear, spray mixture of 1 kg chloropyrifos. So what system will do? This is the advice is generated by the scientist. Okay, they know if this is the rainfall condition, this is the temperature, this is the relative humidity. So they know in this condition, termite may attack into the wheat crop. Or for that, what they have to give, some chemical has to be sprayed. Now, how it will go to the crop? So what system will do? This advice is generated in the analysis algorithm. Now, GIS, what system GIS will do? GIS specify the geographic location can be selected on map. So GIS will identify area where the wheat crop has been grown. Okay, so what it will take? It will identify the wheat crop where, and this particular advice it will be given to these location through internet. It will go to the location, not for other areas. Okay, so for this area where, so this area where wheat crop has been grown, or this is matching with this particular condition, so this advisory can be given to the farmer of those area. So it will not go to other area, it will be applicable to this particular area. So that kind of identity can be done. Okay, similarly, another like the wind speed is going to be range between 50 to 60 for coming 2 days. Right. We have got the weather forecast wind speed. So now what we can do, basically GIS based advisory system will locate the places with crop like banana, maize, etc. Hello. Okay, so what it will identify where this maize or banana crop is there, and it will give advisory to these locations. Okay, because wind speed is going to 50, 60, so you have to take some precautions or some measures to keep your to save your crops, that kind of thing. So this is from the based on basically weather or weather information or weather forecasting information. Now, sometimes what happens, like you have a weather systems is there, like farmer also send the information, or you have your field station in the field, agriculture department field station. So now information is coming from the field information. Like suppose the crop map is there. Now we have got field information from like this Parner and Mal series. Ki crop type is wheat, stage is flowering, and one particular insect has been seen on the crop. Now we'll see from how many, what are the area this is coming. So I found out that this information is from this particular farm or this particular farm area. Okay, so if you see this information from this area and this area. Okay, so now what we can, so we can generate, we can see how this area is linked or adjoining area. We can find it because based on the weather condition of this particular area, we can see, we can link this, we can add, okay, this area from this area, these two areas, similar kind of information is coming. So now what we can do, we can generate advisory like apply insecticide for wheat crop in this area. But now what happened, this area is also wheat. If you see here, this area is also, but the weather condition and other groundwater water condition, other soil moisture condition is different from these two areas of this area. So it advisory will go to this area only, not for this area or not this area. Okay, so that kind of things we can identify in the GIS and we can give it to this. So that, okay. So basically what we can generate a GIS system for advisory generation. So GIS agromat advisory system can be developed. So it will core will be GIS. It will give information from the agrometeorological station, as I said. Then field observation also it is coming. Then satellite observation it will come. Then historical data is also it will be there, like land use and cover, farm and other thing. Then agrometeorological models will be there. Okay, so what it entire information, this information will be analyzed in the GIS, and based on the condition and advice and advisory can be generated, and the output can be given in the form of map. And this, so this advisory we can generate like if you do an area, then you suppose you have a phone number of that particular farmers or owners. What you can do, because you have a, suppose you have generated this advisory. Now you have a cadastral boundary is also there, so you can find out who is the owner of this different plot which is coming under this area, and you have phone number of that, so that you can give that advisory to phone also. That type of thing can be done. Okay, so basically what is the benefit of GIS and remote sensing in agriculture? One is the limitation of paper map, you can say. Then low cost of data per unit, so you can generate data very low cost in per unit. Then repetitive processing of data you can do. Okay, so like this year you have to immediately, you can go for next year also, you can use that data. Okay, then ability to perform complex spatial analysis you can do, and precision is there, like if suppose you want to know exact area where two condition is matching, manually if you do, it will not, but